Good evening. Thank you, Diane, and to the Tea Party and committee that hosted tonight our candidate forum. We're happy to be here. Glad to see all the folks here. This is the third forum with candidates. It's important for me to say tonight that I have been actively involved in the leadership of our county, our city, our nearby cities, as well as the state. As much as 30 years or better, I have been involved with what goes on in our local area. I've been involved with the County Chamber of Commerce and many of the committees that they serve, Lawrence County Development Corporation on their board of directors, the county council and members and of their staffs as well, and also the governor's office. They've awarded Lawrence with over $1 million in grants over the last 4 years. Plus, we've received many other grants. I won't go into those, but I want to assure you that the city of Lawrence has had a great amount of grants afforded to us. The State Department of Commerce, Bonnie Ammons in particular, and our state delegation know me, and they know the city of Lawrence, and they know the county of Lawrence very well. We have been blessed with many grants during my administration, and we work with the Upper Savannah Council of Governments, and they're a great partner to the city. So for a candidate to say that we don't get grants and nobody in the state knows where Lawrence is or anything about Lawrence is rather absurd to me. Wouldn't you think that I would have known some of these candidates before this campaign? If they had been involved in the city and committee, I would have known that. I've been involved with so many things over the last 30 years of my life. I do find it odd that I'm just now meeting some of these candidates, with the exception of John, that want to be our mayor. The reason I mention this is because statements are being made that are not accurate and misleading about the solid condition of our great city. If they ever got involved with this community and kept up with Lawrence, they would know that Lawrence is continually moving forward in a tough economy. We have the Advertiser, WLBG, Go Lawrence, that report on every single meeting that the city council has. The media is always notified and most all the time attend our council meetings. And they report on every single meeting to notify our citizens what's happening. The public is always welcome to attend all of our meetings and planning sessions as well. Our citizens can sign up to speak at every meeting. Whatever opinion they may want to bring forward, they have that freedom to come and speak to the council. This is a transparent government, and we do put our budgets out there for all the citizens to know. We have a public hearing before every budget year, and it's put in the form where citizens can come and speak out about the budget that's being presented. We have an independent audit firm to audit the financial records every year, and we just had our best audit. We met our goal of exceeding the recommended 30% of net reserves, and we obtained 38% of our budget. The city is financially very solid and very, very stable. Over these years, our city council and I have worked very hard together, very much together, in tune, and help Lawrence to prosper. And a lot of things have been accomplished for our citizens in our city. Many parks have been built for our children and families to enjoy. We have a great building department, having built a lot of our facilities ourselves in-house, saving a lot of money. We have a fine recreation department. We are breaking ground on the new recreation center just next week, next Wednesday. We named it the Ridge at Lawrence, which we think is a very appropriate name since it's on a ridge. We built 2 firehouses, with one on each side of the railroad tracks, which helped to get our fire rating inside the city to an ISO 2 rating. There are over 500 fire stations in the state, and we are one of about 30 that have achieved this goal. So it is quite an accomplishment to say that the city has a fire rating of 2. We've replaced 3 fire trucks, one being delivered in March. We have the best trained, dedicated firemen anywhere that I know. We have upgraded all the city's equipment and have them on a scheduled rotation so that we can stay renewed and never have to play catch up again. We do all this on a $6 million budget. We collect $2.2 million in property taxes, which pays for the police department. So property taxes pay for our police department solely. My time is up. I've still got a little bit more here, but just appreciate being here, and maybe some of the questions will allow me to answer some of the things I want to say. So thank you very much.
Our next candidate is Henry Campbell.
Thank you, guys. Good evening. Glad to be here. Again, third time in a week, but you know, it's all fun. It's all good and fun. I was just going to tell you a quick joke. Like Sesame Street, Big Bird says, one of these things does not look like the other. I'm the only bald-headed guy. But I am Henry Campbell. I was born in Lake Wells, Florida. Raised in Washington, D.C. Spent a lot of summers here. I have family here, tons of family. Been coming to Lawrence all my life. So I moved here in 2007, July. And been in sales and marketing for the last 25 years, management. I have my own business here, insurance business here in Lawrence. Had it for 5.5 years and grew it from the ground up. Started with 0 clients and made it to over 400 at this point. Be glad to have a few more in the room. But also been board president of Faith Community Church, YMCA board member, guardian ad litem for the last 7 years, speaking for children. Also on the Lawrence 55 Booster Club. So been pretty active in the community here. I have met Ms. Brownlee, Mayor Brownlee. I don't know why she doesn't remember, but I've met you a few times, Mayor. So been to a few council meetings also. Spoke before the council. So, but you know, running my campaign on values, vision, and a voice for everybody. I believe we should first respect our citizens before we do anything. Make sure we give them the respect that they do. You know, case in point, not putting signs up that, you know, are offensive to our citizens. We need transparency in government, letting people know what's happening before it happens, not when it's done. And with that transparency, I look at communication. I know we have 3 entities here that media, but we're in the 21st century. Social media is big: Facebook, Twitter, texting, email, voicemail, robocalling. There's a whole lot of ways to let people know what's going on. So we need to take account to look at those revenues, those assets, and use them wisely. You know, I don't think we can reach out to our young people unless we're using Facebook and other things, because they're so self-absorbed into the phone. That's where they see, that's where they get the information. So we need to be there. I think we need to be fiscally responsible. Look through the budget, cut things that we don't need. Spend our money wisely, like, you know, be frugal with it. Not just spend it, buy things we don't need, have trolleys sitting around, things that we don't use on a daily basis. The city shouldn't take on those responsibilities. And also cooperation. We need to partner with folks. As the Mayor McLean said, we need to partner, save money that way, and we can do more by partnering with other folks. My vision, you know, the county has brought in a lot of business, and we have not capitalized on it. A lot of people working with ZF, they live in Malden, and Fountain Inn. They don't come this way because we don't have new housing developments. We don't have new apartment developments. We don't have anything that they're interested in, so they move away. If we could get people here, you know, numbers don't lie. If we had more people, we had more tax dollars, revenue, more retail business would come here, because they're going to do the numbers. They're not going to come here if they can't see it as being a winning venture for them. We also, you know, part of my vision is we need to rebrand ourselves. And doing that, you know, unfortunately, I go out around the state, and Lawrence is looked at pretty poorly. So I believe we need to rebrand ourselves and get it out there that, you know, we are a city that you want to come to and want to live in. And then my last thing, just being a voice for everybody. That's the way I run my business. I got 400 or so clients. They know they can call me at any time. If they have problems, I'm going to take care of them. And that's what I would do as mayor. You know, that's not some people, but everybody would be able to have a voice. So I appreciate you guys and your time. I'm done. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Travis Cash.
Anybody have any cards? Hold them up if you have one. Okay.
Well, money doesn't like picking up a well-rounded fellow like me when it doesn't have surgery. You know, the Bible says one thing, and I heard this, what Mayor Brownlee said. The Bible says a fool doesn't take reproach, doesn't listen to wise counsel. I too have met Mayor Brownlee quite a few times. I'm not a very memorable person, but I have met her, and I've been to the city council meetings. And if Lawrence was running so good right now, this room wouldn't be so full. There wouldn't be 5 additional candidates standing up here ready to fight for the heart of Lawrence. And so, what am I going to do as mayor? It's very simple. I don't like politicians. Can't stand them. Politicians are people that have forgotten that they're not your servant. And they start to believe they know better than you. They know what you need to do to live. And so, when I looked at Lawrence and I start driving down the roads and I see buildings that are falling apart between 2nd Baptist and the park that have been here for the entire 10 years that I've been here. When I see $3-point-something million spent on a so-called economic development welcome center, that's going to become a financial burden to the taxpayers of Lawrence. It will never be in the black, ever. We're going to have to pay for it. When I see our city go from 10 years ago when I moved here, such a quiet, peaceful town, to where it's number 15 on the list of most dangerous cities in South Carolina. Now that's North Charleston. That's an embarrassment to me. I told this at the last 2 forums. I sat there and held my hand to a 17-year-old young man's leg as he was shot. And this happened right outside in front of my house. So what would I do as mayor? It's very simple. Your money is your money, and I'll treat it as such. I'm not going to spend money on signs that call us jackasses. I'm not going to put signs around trees at your expense. I'm going to give Chief Letta the reign that he needs. He's the cop, I'm not. He's the smart guy. The only order that I'm going to give him if I'm elected is go into these cities and clean them up. Get the dope out. Get the thugs out. Get the crime out so that every person in this state feels safe. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to find a way to rebuild Lawrence. I don't know all the answers. I'm going to hire the right people. Downtown Lawrence is a beautiful, beautiful little area, but it's fallen apart. And it's, you know, something's got to change or it's gone. And we can keep making promises, but we're not going to spend our way into prosperity. We have to stand and fight for this city. The mayor's had her opportunity over the last 3 elections, and it's time to quit spending, and it's time to start saving, and it's time to start rebuilding our city. And that's my plan. And I will find the right people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, I want to thank Diane and the Tea Party for having all of us here today. I always told my wife, give me a microphone and a spotlight and an audience, I'm good for an hour. But I'm told I only got 5 minutes, so I'll have to keep it to that. A little bit about me, I actually grew up in Washington, D.C. myself, moved to Florida, and by the grace of God, I retired here in Lawrence. We picked the city of Lawrence, and this is where we're going to stay. And I'm here to hopefully represent you. I worked with some very large corporations, including Xerox Corporation, Minolta Corporation, Sharp Corporation. I told the story at the last meeting I was at. I was recruited by a gentleman who owns a very large resort in Orlando, Florida, called Orange Lake Country Club. And he invited me to lunch because he wanted me to work for him. And he told me his story because he had visions, just like everybody here has a vision of what we want to do for Lawrence. He told me a story when he was a young man. He used to travel across the country with his wife and his children. and they stayed at these cheap hotels all over, because back in those days, there weren't any good hotels. And he was scared for his wife and his children, some of the places he stayed at. And he had a vision. He said, you know what, why don't I build a hotel? And he took all his life experiences, travel, and designed a hotel. He made his plan. And he built this hotel, and it was extremely successful. And he took, the next part of that plan was to build a second one, exactly like the first one. So when these people did travel around the country, they would know they could stay in his hotel. And that hotel was very popular. That hotel was the Holiday Inn. Clemens Wilson was his name, and he taught me a lot. He said, Greg, we have a lot of visions. I want you to come in here to my country club, and I want you to have a vision what you're going to do for me. I want you to have a plan. And a plan I did put together. We increased sales dramatically. And because of that experience, I was recruited heavily by many corporations later in my life. I never looked for a job. They always came to me. Because I know how to run a business. I know how to run a profit and loss. I look at our city here and I see what's going on. And I see a lot of things that need to be done. One of my plans is to start working a little bit more with the municipal associations, the Commerce Department, the General Assembly, and the Governor's Office. I was mentioned earlier by another candidate that I said nobody in Columbia knew where Lawrence was. Of course they know where Lawrence was, but they never see anybody from Lawrence there. There's no representation in Columbia from anybody in this city. We talked about all the grants that we got in this city. Where did that money go? It was also brought up, look at downtown, look at the square, look at the sidewalks, look at our city. I don't see any money going back into the city. I'm going to work along with Bob McLean. We've already talked about it, how we can go and together as a team, we can go to the state and we can get some money. I could go get a grant. I know how to get money to beautify this city. We could get grants to fix the roads. If you go around the town, you go into some of the areas that are terrible roads. No money's being spent on that. We talked about transparency. Everybody here in this audience knew anything about this Civic Center before it was announced? Nobody knew anything about it. Now they're having all kinds of issues with it. They run into a spring. They run into water. I want to know if this thing was playing out. There was no plan for this. Where was the feasibility study? That it would work, that it would make money, that would bring money into this county, into the city. None was done. And they ran into water. How come there was no civil engineer group called in to check that? If they would have come in, they would have done a geotech survey, done borings, and they would have found that water. This could have been stopped way before. I want to be recognized as a person who's going to come to the city and make changes. No, I didn't grow up here, but I come with a lot of experience. I also want to talk to Tim Scott and Jeff Duncan and ask them, why do we have a decent post office in this town? Why do we have, it's a dangerous post office. Has anybody gone to anybody and asked for a post office? That's one of the first things I want to do. Why is the population in this city going down? Why? I don't know. I want to clean up the city. I want to make it look pretty. I want to make it attractive for businesses to come here. I want to do this for you. And again, if this was so great a city, why are people leaving? We need to keep our young people here. We send them to school. They get their education, and off they go. We need them to stay here and start their little businesses here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you. I want to say God bless America, God bless South Carolina, and God bless the city of Lawrence. And thank you very much for your time.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
You can do better than that. I'm here on the lap to say good evening.
Good evening.
Now we can get started. I'm John Stankus. I am the former captain of the Lawrence City Police Department, where I was employed for 18 years. I know what's going on in this city, and I want to help improve it. Mr. Hayden has a lot of good ideas. If I'd have known any better, I thought he was looking over my shoulder in December when I was trying to decide what I was going to do and what I wanted to target. So we have a lot of commonalities as to what we'd like to see done. However, I want to do it as a team. I want to do it with City Council. I want to do it with you. I don't want to do it with me. I don't want I want it to be the city of Lawrence Progress. Not one individual, not a group of individuals. I'm running on my own money. I've had groups come to me and offer me money, but there were strings attached. I don't want any strings attached. When I go to bed at night, I want to be able to get up next morning and say, I conscientiously did the best I could for the people of Lawrence. And that's just some of my philosophy. I'm a graduate of the University of South Carolina, spent 30 years in education, did not move back to Pennsylvania because of the snow and the cold. I'm thinking about, Florida. Maybe it's cold down there. Some of the things that I really like to hit on is, first of all, like I said, I want to work closely with council, I want to work closely with you people. I want the public to know what's going on, when it's going on, and how it's going to go on. Economic development, critical if this town's going to grow. We need industry, businesses in this town. I see where ZF is again looking for employees to help them with their industry up there. We need to take a long, hard look at what we're doing and why we're losing people, particularly our young people, to other communities. You go through town, you see houses for sale, every time you turn around, there's a for sale sign going up. Why? We need to find out why. I want to continue the efforts that Ms. Brian Lee has started with the cleanup of the city, the trash. Condemned housing, it needs to go. We need to find ways to bring affordable living into this community. It's going to take a lot of hard work. Can't do it by myself. It's going to take everybody. I know Genesis is involved in some housing off of Wilson Street and off of Jackson Street. We need to exploit that. Habitat for Humanity, we really need to push that. We need housing. Without housing, we have nothing. I want to reduce the crime rate in the city. For 18 years, I thought I did a darn good job. I'm gone for 6 or 7 months, and we're 15th on the maybe I need to refocus and get back in that patrol car and go back out on patrol. And some people probably agree. But I do have some ideas. Our turnover rate at the police department is horrendous. We get good people. We have a real strong way of screening these candidates. We need diversity in that police department. A couple ideas that I have is a lot more recruitment. And this may sound a little far-fetched, but I want a K-9 unit. That K-9 unit will be a deterrent to the drug activity in this city. And I know because I have some guys I've worked with in other cities, and a dog, not a bait dog, but a dog that detects drugs ends up in a lot of monetary. Seizure of cars, seizure of assets, and it can be done. Being retired, I have all the time in the world to spend working for you. And I want to work for you. I'll have an open door policy. I'll be available 24/7. And the light cringes. Because when I was working for the police department, I was available 24/7. And that phone would ring at 1 or 2, 3 in the morning, and I'd be out the door and gone. She might see me 2 hours. She may see me that afternoon. But I'm dedicated to seeing this city move forward. Partnership with other agencies and other entities, I think, is very vital, and be very open and receptive to ideas that these agencies have. I want to work closely with the city manager. I think he's a vital cog in this. He runs it day to day, and that would be my thing. He'd run it day to day while I was working on policy and procedures that need to be in place. Thank you. Vote stank us. And then we don't know. Mr. Parks here, Mr. Parks. No, okay.
He's going to be, he's coming late,
Okay.
and we'll give us 5 minutes when he gets here.
Okay, Mr. Parks will be leaving me in later, okay. All right, we're going to begin now with some questions that have been submitted, and what we will do is ask the questions, and you'll have 2 minutes exactly to respond, because that's gonna take a while for each one to get an opportunity. And so, we've talked a lot about and heard a lot about things that the city is doing or should do or things of that nature. This is a little different question. What, if anything, does the city do or fund that you believe is not really the proper function of city government? That's the question. And we're going to ask each of you, and Mr. Stankus. Huh? Well, we started at that end with the other. I was going to give you opportunity, but
Go to repeat the question.
okay. What, if anything, does the city do or fund that you believe is not really a proper function of city government?
It's maybe not what they fund, it's maybe what they should
Come
fund.
up here because he's taking this.
I haven't attended maybe a few council meetings, and so I really can't elaborate much on this. But I think there are some worthy causes out there. But I don't think we should be one of those agencies that everybody runs to for a handout. I think if it's voted on by city council and they think it's a worthwhile project, an endeavor, provided it's going to benefit the city. I just don't think we should be giving this group money, that group money, this individual money to do this or do that. But I think they need to take a long, hard look at where this extra money's going. Our budget's in good shape, and we need to build and save money as much as we can. But as far as giving money away, I just don't think we should give money away to just anybody. Everybody comes in asking for money. It's your tax dollars. I think if we're going to give away money, then you ought to have a say in where it's going. And here again, I think city council is very vital to this. It's their people that they're going to have to answer to. So with that, I'm going to leave it. If it's worthwhile and we're going to get something back in return, it's going to make us better, then I think we need to give money to the right people.
My policy is very simple. I'm going to take it a little bit step further than Mr. Shanks said. I don't believe that Lawrence should be spending any money outside of their lawful duties unless the people have permitted it. I don't think we should be involved in concert promotions, beer promotions out in the park. I don't think that we need to be spending money for crude signs. Unless the people of this town have said yes, don't spend it. And that includes handouts, as Mr. Stankus was saying. We have too many things that we need to do right now, not to spend money on these side issues that certain people have found to be their main goal.
Okay, Mr. Hayden.
One of the things I notice is I don't think the city should be involved 100% with a sports program. We have the YMCA in town. They're a great partner to have. They're running their program, and the city's running their program. I can't see why this money is being spent double. We could partner up with them, with the Y. We could partner up with the schools. We can go ahead and join a partnership where we all share the cost of all these programs. Yes, we have some beautiful parks, and they're great for the Little League. But where are our children, neighborhood children, going to go play? They're not allowed to play in those parks. I don't know if you're aware of that, unless it's a Little League game. Where are they going to go? The YMCA has recreation centers around, after-school programs. I think the city should partner up with them. We could save a lot of money. Everybody could spend their money, and we could save money for the city. I think that's the biggest place we can save our money. Another thing I thought is being spent, again, we go back to this recreation center. If we would have partnered up with the Y and maybe somebody else, we could have saved ourselves a lot of money. I believe this is going to cost this city a lot of money down the road because, again, no feasibility study was done. It's all based on we can do this, we can do that, who's going to come in. I don't go by that. I want to know who's going to be here. Where are these people going to stay? Are they going to stay in our city? Where are they going to eat? Are they going to stay in our city and eat? That's where the money needs to come into our programs in here. I think we need to get out of the business of being in convention hall business. We need to do that in partnership. If we would have partnered with the YMCA, they could have done half of the cost, and it would have saved the city tons of money. That's what I believe. I think the city has gone too far and done a lot of things that shouldn't be done without confiding in anybody in this room of what they're doing. They just go ahead and do what they want to do. And they keep saying that the reporters are there at these meetings. I've been to these meetings, there's no reporters there. There's nothing in the advertiser about anything. It's all word of mouth. That's my thought on it. Thank you again for your time.
Well, I think, we probably can give out money, we can give out revenue to folks, but we just need to make them accountable. Make sure that what they're doing is being used wisely, and they need to show some accountability, show that it's being used and it's helping out the community. Now, if we don't see that, then, it's a possibility, then we need to cut it, and we don't need to give it back out. So I was at a council meeting where they did give out $5,000 to somebody. And what they need to do now is make sure that that $5,000 is going to be used correctly. And then if it's not, then, that person or that organization should be able to come back and ask for it again. So, we got to give our community folks a chance to, get out there and see what they can do, because that's what this is about. It's about the city. People have ideas, and, we can help them. But I don't think we should just give it away and not have it in return. So, thank you.
There are 7 people that vote on the budget, and we all participate in planning sessions. We invite people to participate with us in making these decisions. I will say this, I don't think there's anything that we spend that is not well needed by the entities that we support. We give money to senior options, we give money to the YMCA, we give money to support Lawrence in many ways, to support our quality of life. And if you think quality of life is not important, and that's why recreation is very important, and the new civic center, community center, recreation center is critical to economic development. If you talk to the leaders in our community, and I'm talking about Lawrence County Development Corporation, is set up with all of the major leaders in our community. And economic development is critical to Lawrence, and we're trying to recruit industry. You cannot recruit industry in here if you don't have things for them to come for. We are praying that ATW will come here, and I'm hopeful that they will. There's so many things that are close by that are going to happen, despite what people may think. It takes a long time to recruit industry. I see people in this room that know exactly what I'm talking about. Total quality of life is critical, and recreation is one part of it. We have great schools, we've got great hospital system, we have a lot really positive things that are going on for our community. As far as the YMCA is concerned, we've tried to work with the YMCA. I love the YMCA. The city supports the YMCA. Maybe you're saying that we should stop giving them the $20,000 that we give them each year. But we do that to make sure that the Y is solid. They need our money, and they don't have room for us. Most of you were at the council meeting on Tuesday night. You heard with your own ears that the YMCA is very full, very, very, very involved with all types of things in the community. And right now, they couldn't even house our basketball program in their facility. And they can't house a lot of what the city is doing. So I would love to speak to you further about that, but on the clock and can't say anything else. Stop.
Okay, there have been several remarks made about police or crime or things of that nature. I would like for each of you to tell us what is your view of the current leader of the police department, Chief Letta, and would you, as elected mayor, seek to retain him? And also, any other department head, is there any department that you think needs new leadership in that you would be willing to tell us about? So, Travis.
Chief Letta is very simple. I find Chief Letta to be a very honorable man. He's a very intelligent man. If you haven't heard his story, it's well worth getting with him and listening to it. I would definitely keep Chief Letta, and I would support him 100%. I can't think of a better person to be in that job. One of the other people that I've seen that's done a great job in this city is the gentleman, Jason, that runs the parks. Does a heck of a job with the Youth Baseball League. My son's involved in that. So I don't know a lot of the other leaders. I can't say that I would terminate any of them without having the ins and outs of day in and day out with them. You really can't know if they're doing a good job, if they're spending money wisely. And so I couldn't answer the second part. But as far as Letta goes, as long as he would want to stay, he would be my guy. Mr. Hayden.
I think you have one of the finest police chiefs that any city could have. I complimented him the other day. I had a false alarm go off in my house. I had my company call me, my security company call me, said my burglar alarm was going off. The police had been notified. I called my neighbor, and my neighbor said the police are already there. And it went over, and again, it was a false alarm. I complimented Chief Letta and his police officers. I think he's doing a good job considering the amount of money that's being budgeted to his department. More money needs to be budgeted. They have to have more training. Again, I believe what Bob McLean said earlier when he was here for the city of Clinton, they're getting cameras, the best cameras and the dashboard cameras and things like this nature. I think he needs to hire new people. I think we need to give them more money to give them raises so they will stay. I want to bring our youth up. How many of our youth is here? In high school, that would be a perfect place for them to go. Nothing better. At one time, I understand the only police officers that were in this town grew up in this town. Why don't we do that again? Why aren't we out recruiting our high school seniors, sending them to an academy, putting some money aside for them? That's what I would like to do. I think he's doing a great job. I think our fire department is doing an excellent job, and the whole city. As far as what are other people doing, I can't answer that question. But whenever I go into a company, I review everybody. I review every department. I review every employee. And if I see it's working well, I leave it alone. The old saying, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. But if it is broken, I make adjustments to make sure that it will be run properly. And I won't be able to do that unless I'm elected your mayor. Thank you very much.
Tripp, I think this must be a trick question, because if I answer it wrong, I might not be able to live in Lawrence. I won't have any police protection, nobody will pick up my trash. So, I'm just going to say, you know, I've met a few of the department heads, they're all good guys. I know they're doing what they can, but as Mr. Hayden said, we do a review and see what we can add to it, what we can take away from it. I can't make a judgment call on anybody because I haven't sat down with them and done their job. So I would have to talk to them individually and see where they stand, what they need, or what they don't need. So until that moment, you make me the mayor, I do want my trash picked up, and we want 911 to respond. So yeah, until that time happens, I believe they're doing a pretty good job, and I'll retain them until they prove otherwise. Thank you.
I love that question. Sonny, I think you're safe. I think everybody loves you. I hired him, so I think I did a good job. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about is our departments and how they're set up. All of our department heads are very well trained. The police department are well trained. They're never paid enough. I will be the first to say that. There's only so much money in the pot. They get $2.2 million to run the police department, and that's over a third of what we take in for tax dollars. And there's still a lot of the city to pay for beyond that. We have made sure that the police department has had the latest tools and materials and equipment to to be able to run our city. They have the best vehicles. We've made sure that we've got all of our vehicles on a rotation, and they should be replaced, very periodically. They have the best weaponry, and the city is well served by these dedicated men and women. We got a lot of our police department here tonight. Gary Coleman, our city administrator, is here tonight. We got a few city council members. Our city is very well run. I can promise you that that the citizens are getting a big bang for the buck. And I know there's some concerns about streets and sanitation and the cost that department has. That is a well-run department too. We've looked at every department and we've streamlined it. We run it with a skeleton crew, and we're really doing a great job for this city. And I don't take any credit for it. Our department heads are awesome. They do a great job, and I can't see that any of them should fear because of an election that they might lose their jobs. So, thank you.
I think that's a totally unfair question for me, because my wife's employed at the police department. I have some really concerns about the police department. How many chiefs of police in South Carolina drive super sport Camaros for police cars? Why isn't he in a police car, a sedan? I worked for him for about 15 months. Spoke with him 3 times in my office. Like I said, it's a totally unfair question, because I don't have sire grades. I didn't want the chief's job. I didn't want the assistant chief's job. I was happy doing what I was doing. And I did it for a number of months without an assistant chief. You people better take a long, hard look at what's going on in that police department. A gag order. Can't talk about me while they're working. I don't blame them. We have a great group of guys that work up there, but I personally think the leadership's lacking. Looks good on paper, looks good in photographs. He is seldom there. I know, I work with him. I think the guy has a lot of potential. I think he can do a lot for the city. If elected, I'm not going to say he's safe or not safe. I'll have a long sit-down talk with him. But I can promise you this, he'll be in the police car if I'm elected. That sport car is gone. So left a lot of sour grapes. He doesn't know it. He knows it now. A lot of people in this town are not happy with what he drives. And a lot of the guys that work there are not happy that he is seldom there.
Okay, the next question says, many of you have stated that transparency is a priority with you. Specifically, how would you increase transparency in the mayor's office?
Right.
I'll be real transparent. I used to run different boards, and everything was always published ahead of time, what was going to be discussed at the meetings. Again, I went to a council meeting the other night, and they said, approve the minutes from last week. Everybody raised their hand. I never went to a meeting where they didn't read off the minutes from the last meeting. Nothing is ever discussed. I would have that newspaper, I would have a advertisement in our newspaper stating what's going to be on the agenda, inviting everybody to come hear what we're going to be talking about. If especially a major issue is a $3.1 million project, I would have everybody, like in this crowd in here, I would love to have you come to a council meeting and when we discuss something of this nature, and have everybody's thoughts on it and where we would go with it. Then we would talk about it in front of everybody. Not emails to everybody. We would discuss it in public, in the open, and then we would vote on it. And I wouldn't do it all in one meeting. I would do it over 2 or 3 meetings, so everybody knew exactly where we were going, so all the questions could be answered, so everything could be stated. and then a decision will be made with the council. That's what I call transparency. I want to let everybody know what's going to be going on in public, in City Hall. I have an open door policy. I'm always there. If you want to see me, you call me, I will come to my office and I will meet you there. I will listen to you, I will listen to everybody. Will I always agree with you? Probably not. Will I agree with you? Probably so. But I will be there for you. I will let you know everything that's going on. There will be no secrets, nothing going on behind my back. You'll know. You'll be part of every decision that's made in this city. Thank you.
Well, just as I discussed earlier, using social media would be one way to be transparent. I know I did get a chance to come to a meeting. I think it was about the green space after they tore down the building, discussing what was going to be done with it. And, you know, the only problem I had with that meeting was that it was 10 o'clock on Friday. And if you work, you got a real job. See, I don't have a real job, so. If you have a real job, you can't make it. So probably should have been done like on a Saturday when folks were able to come. And, you know, I will say this, a lot of times you do have meetings and folks don't come. We look around the room, we don't have a lot of people here. We should be packed out. Everybody should want to know what I got to say. But they're not here, so. Well, you know what I meant. We got 9,000 residents in Lawrence. We only got 1% here, so, you know, folks who want to know what's going on. And it's a two-way street, you know. We can be as transparent as we need to be, but folks kind of ignore it and go on. So, again, I say, you know, using social media, because a lot of people on their computers and on their phones, at least they'll know what's going on and be able to, you know, have the opportunity to say, nah, I don't want to come. Or not have the opportunity to say, well, I didn't know. All right, thanks.
There is an agenda posted for every single meeting that we have, and the media and the public are invited. We do need to probably do a better job getting it more published. I'll admit that. I think it's a good idea. But we have been posting it, and people are advised of the agenda. There's no hidden agenda. There is nothing that we do that is any kind of a secret. All of our meetings are very open. They're open to the public, and we announce it to the media. And the media does a very good job of reporting everything that gets done in those meetings. And if we have an executive session and there's something to come out with, we make sure the media knows that what took place if they happen to leave and not stay. But the city is very transparent. There's certain things that you have to do that, like planning the Civic Center. Until you know that you're going to be able to do that, you can't just go out there and throw it out and talk about something that you don't even know that you're going to be able to do or afford to do. So there's a lot of legal work that goes into it and a lot of planning that goes in it to be able to have that Civic Center. So I am very pleased with the City Council and our department heads and also the people that we did talk to about the need. There seems to be some concern about having the Civic Center. I don't really understand that because it's such an important part of what we need to do for our community. Our citizens, our children, our families, everybody in this room deserves to have a good quality of life. And if you don't have a good quality of life, you're not going to build rooftops, meeting houses, and you're not going to have industry come here. And that's been a very important part of what the city has been trying to do. And our city council, we've got one city council member here tonight, Mark Lowry, and he can vouch for everything that I'm saying. But anyhow, there is transparency. It may not be the perfect kind of transparency, but we do have it.
Transparency to me is looking out that window, and there's nothing hiding you from looking out that window, people looking at you. I have to agree with Mayor Brownlee. Every meeting is posted. I have been, the ones I've been to, the press has been there, the radio station's been there. So, you know, you've got to take it upon yourself to know that city council meets the third Tuesday of every month. So if you're not there, you're not there. But like these other candidates, that meeting will be advertised. It'll be open to you. You'll have a chance to speak. You'll have a chance to air your opinions. And here again, I'd encourage you to go through your council members. You know who your council members are. Talk with them. And I really want them to really be educated when they walk into that meeting to know what they were talking about and not all of a sudden be handed something and so we've got to vote on this. I want them to have the time to study proposals. Nothing to hide. I'm going to tell you. You see me, I don't have anything to hide from you. And I won't hide it from you. You ask me my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give it to you straight as I see it from the book of John. It's just like this little old lady came home from church one night, caught a prowler in her house, and all she could think about was to holler, Acts 2:38. The man froze in his footsteps. She called the police got there. The police asked her, why didn't you run? This is a little old lady. Well, she had an Acts and 2:38s.
Come on up, Howard, have a seat here. Try to get to the last question we're on, and then we'll have.
Transparency is a very key thing, but let's be honest, going to city council meetings, you either have to be very, very bored at home, want to get away from the wife, or very, very in politics. You know, I've been to a few, and I'd rather bang my toe with a hammer. So it's very simple. I think that one of the things in Texas when I was growing up, there was a mayor out there, and they now call them town halls. People love those. You know, here's how you got to do the council. If you go to the council, if you can get there, you have to register to ask a question. If you forget that question, you're in trouble. So town halls are the way to go, and I have told this to everybody. If I'm elected, I will hold town halls at least 3 times a year where you can come out, meet with me on a personal level, and know everything, every budget. But this is transparency, and I've got to go back to a previous comment. When I saw that pretty sports car pull up, I was a little bit impressed too. That's a bad car. Okay, I'm not sure why anybody would be mad about it. It's beautiful. But I asked Chief Letta, I said, that's a nice car. And he demonstrated in a heartbeat that it was cheaper than buying a town car. That's the kind of transparency that I'll have.
Okay, Mr. Parks is here. We're here for him for 5 minutes.
Better late than never, right?
Right.
Please do well.
So go right ahead and they'll hold up the sign when you're running out of time.
Okay. You're Diane, right? It's nice to meet you. I've apologized for my tardiness. We had a basketball game tonight. I think of referees, don't take this picture, Billy, okay? I think of referees like I think of IRS agents. So you and I can see eye to eye on that. My name is Jeff Parks. I'm honored to be here today. I apologize for my voice, and I'll try to speak up if I need to. I'm honored to have the chance to stand up here with these 500 other individuals. We all have differences in what we believe, and I think the one thing that we share in common is that we have a vision for what we want Lawrence to be, and that we're all here because we care deeply about the city that we live in. I get asked oftentimes as I go neighborhood to neighborhood, door to door, why is it that you're running for mayor? And the answer to that is, right now I have a wife, I've got a lot going on right now, so I have my phone with me, that is sitting at home, 8.5 months pregnant. She has lived in Lawrence her entire life. She grew up here. She's lived in the city limits her entire life, with the exception of 4 years that she did at Presbyterian College. And as we get ready to welcome a baby boy into our lives, it's important to me that we create a Lawrence that is one that is going to be safe for our child to grow up in, and one that's going to have opportunity for our child as he gets older. So that's the reason why
I feel it's important for me to run for mayor at this point. A couple of things that I believe in, and I'm sure that a lot of these have already been touched on. To me, we can all disagree about what we expect from our government, but it doesn't matter if we're talking about state, local, or national level. We expect our government to keep us safe. That's the most basic sense of what government should do. And one of the things that I've noticed as I got into this is that I feel like that we have neglected safety in a lot of ways because we haven't provided our police with the resources that they need. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but property crimes in the city of Lawrence are up over 6% over the last 5 years. Thefts and larcenies are up over 20% in the last 5 years. And when you compare those statistics to other cities that are similar in demographics to Lawrence, you'll notice that cities that are similar demographically have a significantly lower crime rate in thefts and larcenies. So as mayor, one thing that I think that we need to do is we need to prioritize safety and security. We need to give our police officers, see Chief Letta back there, the tools that they need to be proactive in combating crime. And with safety and security being such a big issue, I think one thing that we also need to focus on is that we need to pay officers a salary that's going to allow them not to use this as a stepping stone from one job to another, but we need to pay them a salary that's going to allow them to stay in Lawrence. Because if we have officers that stay here, that build relationships in neighborhoods, that know the streets, that know people, that know high crime areas, well then what you're going to find out is that we're going to be able to stop a lot of those issues. That's one important thing to me. Another important thing is that I think that we need to take what's been the center of Lawrence for the last 200 years, which is that historic square, and we need to do everything that we can from an economic perspective to build that square, to make it a jewel that it is in this county, and then to attract businesses, to empower the business owners that are already there, and do what it takes to make that the focal point of not only our city, but this county as well. And I've noticed that talking to business owners, that a lot of business owners feel like that our city government hasn't given them the tools that they need. You know, we talked about this the other day, but it bothers me when we go to the square that we have 4 finance companies that sit on the square. The people that are showing up on the square to get $700 off a 1982 Buick are not the people that are going to be shopping at the frame shop. They're not the people that are going to be going to Yo Cup to eat. They're not the people that are going to be taking in a movie at the Capitol. And so one thing that we need to do is we need to determine what we want our square to be. And we need to focus on building that. I know that I'm behind here. I see that I've got less than a minute here. So one thing that I want to ask is this. If you've got questions for me, I will hang around as long as we need to. I told Diane the other day, we'll all go to the Waffle House, we'll pile in, we'll get us a cup of coffee, a waffle. I'm hungry right now, so I'll be more than happy to sit down and eat. And I would love to share for you my vision of Lawrence and how we can make that happen. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, do you feel like that we pay too much in city taxes? Would you lower them, and specifically, how would you do it? What would you cut? Campbell, are you going first? Yeah, you're the lucky one. Yeah.
Well, you know, after that minute you gave us of all those taxes we pay, I want to cut a whole lot of taxes out. I'm paying too many. I don't know how I got any money in my pocket. But no, you know, I think at this juncture, you know, all I can say is I've looked at the budget. I mean, it's working. I wouldn't raise taxes on anybody. That's a death sentence for politicians, and I wouldn't do it. So, you know, I think we just need to look at how we spend our money and use it wisely. So, no taxes, no taxes, no tax increase.
I'm happy to report there are no taxes that we're implementing in any way for our citizens. The city of Lawrence has enjoyed a low rate of taxes. There's only been one increase in taxes in the city of Lawrence in 30 years or better. So, you know, I think we're getting a lot of good benefit from the taxes that we pay. The city of Lawrence pays, like I said, about $2.2 million. It pays for the police department only. Other revenues take care of the rest of the departments in running the city. So, you know, if there could be tax increases, you know, I don't see them on the horizon, because I don't think there's anybody that's serving currently or any of these elected officials that would be talking about raising taxes. We're actually doing a very good job with what we're taking in. So thanks.
Jeff, I'm sorry y'all lost tonight. I'm an old Woodruff boy by heart, but I knew they were playing today. I worked in Woodruff to that stuff up there. No tax increases. I got a copy of the budget. I mean, we're making, and we're able to save a little bit of money this year. And I think the whole key is we really got to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it, and if we can save money and build a surplus for that rainy day, because that rainy day will be coming before you know it. You got personal budgets at home. I mean, we know what we're going to get to bring in. We know what we got to spend. I'd like to give everybody in all the departments a 3% raise. That means raising taxes for the most part, and I don't want to raise my own taxes. I don't want to raise yours. But I think that Gary and council and the mayor have done a good job in holding the line. But we got to find a way to generate more revenue. But just like everybody else, no tax increase.
There's one thing I can promise you as mayor: I would not increase your taxes. I can't promise you that I would decrease them, but there are some things that I think certainly need to be looked at. One is, I believe that as citizens, we have been hit with a tax under the disguise of a fee. When you talk about $11 a month for trash pickup, you know, if I were to tell you that I'm going to raise your taxes $132 a year, all of you would look at me like I was crazy, right? Well, that's essentially what has happened. One thing I would like to do is I would like to look at the possibility of paying for trash pickup out of the general fund and not necessarily charging an $11 fee for that. As taxpayers in the city, one thing that we notice is that we could move a couple of miles out into the county. We could pay lower taxes, but with that, we would give up some services. And so for me, one of the benefits of being a city taxpayer is that I expect certain things to be provided for me, trash pickup being one of those. So that's one thing that I would like to look at from a personal perspective. You know, another thing is, I think that to do what I want to do as far as increasing the salaries of police officers, it's going to take a real hard look. You know, I told you I don't want to raise taxes, but that's going to probably mean that we're going to need to take a look at every aspect of the budget. We're going to need to take a look at the audits over the last 10 years that have been done independently, that has been provided for the city council. And we need to look at where it is that our city financially is not doing as well as it could. We need to shift that to the police department for the security aspect.
I don't quite agree with no taxes raised in 30 years. Technically, I guess that's true. The one that just came recently with the penny tax. One of my first goals would be to eliminate it, period. It's a ridiculous tax. Second thing is that I would never raise taxes. In order to raise taxes, you first have to have your spending in order. And if your spending is not in order, you don't keep stealing from the people. This is my money, but there's been a few more property, my property tax has gone up. I don't know about all of you. So it's a little bit of a raise. And like he said, there's fees that are snuck in there. So we've seen a few tax raises, and I will, like Mr. Park said, bring it to an end. And if I'm elected, I will eliminate the 1 cent. It may be insignificant, but it's a symptom of the problem, and that's what we have to remember. This isn't government money. Government does not produce a dollar. They take it, and we got to quit taking it.
As one of our presidents once said, George H.W. Bush, read my lips, no new taxes. No, that's political suicide for anybody to ever say they're going to raise your taxes. Where's this money going to come from? I also looked at the budget. That budget can be tweaked. I see money that's being wasted on certain things. They had the trash pickup, I understand, and what happened to the people that were picking up the trash before? They've been moved over to other positions. Are they doing anything in these other positions? I don't know. But I do know that Bob McLean said, you go in, you work a budget, you trim it down, you get rid of waste. By getting rid of waste, you bring more money in. By bringing more money in, there never would ever be a thought of no new taxes. So I'm letting you know, if I'm elected mayor, I will tweak that budget. I have people that can help me tweak that budget, what I don't understand. I already have plans in place, I told you before. I have a plan. I'm not just going to go in, become mayor, and say, okay, what am I going to do now? I already know what I'm going to do. I have the right people in place. I have the people I can go to. I have a good city council I need to get to know and better, so I can work better with them, so we can all do better to help this community, help you, help your community keep the crime down. I want to give more money to the sheriff. Excuse me, police chief. Erase that. Anyway, I can do this. I already know what I'm doing. Remember, I'm a businessman. I've done profit and losses for companies. I've been vice president of companies. I know how to do this. I'm not just going to come up here and say, here's what I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to do, and not do it. I already have my plan in effect. Trust me, I'm going to help you do this. I'm going to work with you, and I want to bring all you, part of you, in and help me do that. Thank you again.
Okay, this is the last question, and most of the candidates probably will stay around a little bit, but the people who run this building, it won't be long till they'll start coming and want to turn the lights down. So this is the last question, and if you could do it in a minute, that would even be good too. Ronald Reagan once said, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. What is your philosophy on how government regulation and codes would be either a benefit to the city, or how do you think they would harm it? And Ms. Brownlee, you get to go first on that.
What was that question? Read it again.
Okay. What is your philosophy on how government regulation and codes would be a benefit to your city, or how do you think they would harm it?
Regulations and codes. We all have to have rules to go by, and we have to have rules to protect all of our citizens. We don't want the city to be just running rampant with nothing to protect all the people, all the properties. So we do have good, strong building codes, and we have a good enforcement officer. Clay Riker does a good job with enforcing codes, and it's not an easy job to do because there's a lot of legal ramifications of anything you do with any type of property. So less government, I believe in it. I believe in some of the Tea Party's ideas and what they would like to see happen in the United States, and particularly the federal government. The federal government is killing all of us. Small business, I've been in big business with at the glass plant. I've managed $300 million in buying goods and services to 7 glass plants. That's my background. I'm also a small business owner, so I know how hard it is to make ends meet. There's always taxes to pay. I feel like I work most of my life for taxes. Believe me, I do. I think I work 6 to 8 months every year just to pay taxes. And but as far as the city goes, city taxes are minimal, and you get a lot of services for it. And downtown is one of the most difficult situations that we have because all those buildings are old, and the South Carolina International Building Codes require all those buildings to be sprinkled if they have dual purpose, meaning apartments upstairs and businesses downstairs. So, and that's a very expensive proposition. I know one candidate said something about maybe we need to tear some of the buildings down to get them in code. That would just ruin downtown for sure. But money is tight. Ever since the down economy, 2008 particularly, the city has been working very hard to try and get downtown rebuilt. Got to stop again, I'm sorry.
John, you're next.
I'm just gonna give Jeff one of my minutes. Without rules and regulations, our society would be in utter chaos. And I'm beginning to wonder, with all the rules and regulations, if we're not in chaos. But we gotta have the rules. I'm not real happy personally about some of the things that occurred to me. I invested some money several years back. When I took it out, Uncle Sam got all the money that I had earned on it through taxes. I think less interference from the government is profitable for everybody. Codes, I think we have to have the codes, building codes. Without it, again, you'd have anything being built anyway. So here again, less to me is better. But we have to have some societal measures in place if we're going to survive as a society. Thank you.
I think we would all agree that regulations can go overboard very quickly. I think that Mayor Brownlee and Mr. Stankus have both shown that when you start talking about at the federal level. I teach AP government, and we talk about the literally tens of thousands of pages of regulations and how they bog us down in life. But I think that regulations at the city level can be very productive, and I think that they can benefit us if they're done correctly. Let me give you a couple of examples of that. One thing that we all want to see as property owners is we want to see the price of our property protected. So if the day ever comes where you decide you want to move, you want to make sure that the price of your property has been protected so that you can get a fair price for that when you sell it. And that's where I think a lot of the codes and zoning issues come into play. What are you going to allow to settle near you? What's going to be there? I talked to you when I got here 55 minutes late. I'm sorry, okay? But I talked to you about the idea that I got involved in this because I wanted to make Lawrence a safer place. Mayor Brownlee is absolutely correct. Clay Reichert is a great zoning director. I emailed him and I asked him some questions. But here's one thing that concerns me, where I think that regulation can help significantly. We have a city park, a beautiful city park, that sits a block off of the square. And in the last 3 months, we've had a nightclub that's open there that operates after 10 o'clock at night and shuts down about 2 or 3 in the morning. It's caused problems for our police. It's caused issues when we talk about crime and some unsavory figures that have ended up there. Well, that's when good zoning can be productive to the citizens. A lot of you in here have kids and you have grandkids, and you don't want a place where your kids are going to play being across the street from a nightclub that's going to operate from 10 to 2 a.m. That's where zoning and codes can be very productive to us as citizens.
We all have common sense. You know, we don't want to build a building with stucco and put our kids in them. So we all know common sense regulation. But I was reading in the paper this morning, and this is the kind of abuse that's been going on. A nearly 80-year-old man is facing 10 years in prison because he had a 1770 flintlock pistol. Now, that's absurdity. I was reading a report by Heritage Foundation that said that there are so many regulations that every single person in this country could be put in prison nearly any time of the day. This is the absurdity. So my opinion on regulations, yeah, we all know we need a safe building, but government needs to stay out of people's business. They need to stay out of the business once it goes past safety so that companies and people can live their lives as they see fit and as God intended, period. That's just the point, and that's it. You get to finish with me today. So. I'm not last. I didn't want to sit down again.
I always liked Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan had great insight. He knew big government is bad for the country.
Amen.
He knew, you know, back in the early days of our country, people went west and they started little towns. And they set their rules and regulations up. And they did pretty well. They got a form of government, got police protection, and they grew. And they grew because nobody told them how to run their town. Big government now is telling us everything, what we have to do. And it's getting really old. The stronger your government, I don't know if you all realize this, I understand you teach government. I had problems with democracy for 4 years in high school. And the stronger a government gets and takes over more control of you, it becomes a totalitarianism type of government. It's a hard word to say, but basically, it's Big Brother. Remember that movie, Big Brother? That's what's happening. We got to stop that. We got to get the right people in there to break that up. As far as our city is concerned, I think it's being done very well. They have good rules and regulations. The zoning is good. I'd like to see a lot of that zoning improved. Our police department is good. Everything is going very well. I don't think there's a problem in the city with a lot of that. The county tells us a lot of things. They dictate to us some things we have to do, and the state dictates to them what they can do. I understand that, but that's all within our state. And every state should have their own obligation of how they're going to run their state with their counties and with their cities. I'm opposed to big government. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I was born 4 blocks from the capital of the United States. And that city I grew up in is no longer there. Those politicians were there were really good politicians. They took care of our government. It's not happening now. So I think that was the question. What do I think of big government? I think you understand what I think about it.
Well, I gotta be truthful with you. I just got this picture of Jeff's kid out at 10 o'clock at night in the park. I don't know what he's doing out there late at night, but okay. But zoning regulations, I'm all for them. I believe we need to have them, and because you have citizens that want to build 50-foot fences for some unknown reason because they have neighbors they don't like. So we can't allow that. We can't allow need things to decorum, look good. So I'm all for the city doing what they can with regulations and codes and keeping it straight because we want a city that we can live in and look good. So we need to enforce a little bit more. I think we have the old mill that's an eyesore. We have a lot of things that's not looking good. So I know they are tearing down some buildings, but we need to do a little bit more. So continue to enforce and do the regulations, codes, and regulations until we can make it look good, make the city look better. All right, thanks.
When you get to talking about things that are old and not looking too good, you want to tear them down, you better be careful, that might not stop your buildings.
I'm old.
Ms. Brownlee has asked, can she just respond for a moment and literally no more than 1 minute? Because let her respond.
I won't even
about-
walk up there. I wanted to say something about the restaurant bar that just moved in down where River Tracks was next to the children's park. I will tell you that we looked every which way under the sun to try and stop that from happening. We did stop what they were planning. When they met with the city, it was going to be a restaurant, and they were going to serve quesadillas, and they were going to be able to have a safe place for families to come and eat. Well, then we found out it was going to be a sex bar with a pole and cages and all that. Our police department, Sunny Letter, they all went down there. We got all of that stopped, but you can't stop certain businesses from opening because it's against state law if you prevent anybody from opening a business unless you have a rule or reg about it. In that particular case, I would say I've spent many a night worrying about that place opening up. They wanted to open up Christmas Eve, and we worked hard to get the sex end of it stopped, but it's still there, and this is a rough place. Our police officers are down there, some of them go regularly to make sure that they're not breaking the law by putting in more of their intentions, which I think they'll get there.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of our meeting tonight. Thank all of you for